Hello and welcome back to Sitting In. Today you're listening to episode 8. And to be honest, we don't really have a script right now, so we're just going to see how it goes. But yeah, how's everybody doing?
I'm joyful. Thanks for asking. I was waiting like, do I go? Do you go? Yeah, I'm good. I'm looking forward to a morning of, pardon the pun, but riffing. Yeah, just seeing what everything's about. But, it's a lovely morning here as well. I went to go collect the food shopping this morning, right? I don't know why I'm telling you this, but it was just amazing to me.
It's a podcast, bro. You just say these things.
That's true. So I'm coming out the car park. Got like a boot full of eggs and milk and all that other stuff. I'm coming out the car park and I look over the hedge basically, and I see this massive yellow thing, and I'm like, oh man, someone's put up a hot air balloon. Then I thought to myself, there are no fields around where I am that would even be able to cater to that. So I turned the corner, and then as I started to turn the corner, I saw the biggest moon that I've ever seen in my life. It was so big. It was like somebody had like kicked a football into the sky, and it had just stuck there. It was really wild. But yeah, big and yellow, and you could see everything on it. You could even see like the cheese.
I thought you were going to say you saw like a lion or a tiger. I was like, oh man, like what?
Well, not this week, but I think a big moon is pretty impressive. I don't think it was a super moon because
You do realize it doesn't actually change size though. Like the moon is always the same size, but it's
well, I don't know. I don't know about that. I can only go off, personal evidence. But yeah, that's been my morning. Callum, what about you? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Feeling good. Not had any rare experiences this morning, but I think this episode will be a rare experience. I think this because it's not scripted. I think we'll see what comes out. It'll be exciting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, last night, Cal and I had a rehearsal that was like mildly stressful leading up to it because we're rehearsing for this big gig. And I was just so knackered last night that I when I finished teaching after the rehearsal at 8:30, I just kind of chilled. And Callum and I were supposed to go walk this morning, just get up early before the podcast. But yeah, I got out of bed an hour ago. So I'm feeling well rested. I've done nothing. And believe it or not, today we are coming to you largely uncaffeinated, I believe. Is that right?
Unfortunately, yes, it is right.
Yep.
Yeah, and on that note, if you would like to buy us a coffee, there's a link in the description to buy me a coffee, and what you contribute goes towards funding our caffeine addiction. Sorry. No, but more seriously, if you do want to support the podcast in a very small way, the coffee that you're drinking right now, perhaps you'd like to share it with us, but you can't because we're in your ears and not sitting on your lap. So if you want to help us out, click on the link and you can support us there. But yeah, as we've all kind of alluded, we don't have a script here. Usually what we'll do is we'll choose a topic and we'll kind of jam it, so to speak, hence the name Sitting in Jams. Now what I thought might be fun to do is, well, just see where this episode goes, but also maybe put a bit of an angle on it where we're looking back at the last year or even just a holiday that happened, and I don't know, maybe sharing how we felt about that. So I'm going to open it up with a question, maybe potentially quite a big question. Now, feel free to have a minute to think about this, but the question's going to be, what's one thing you learned last year? And that could be something super literal, like I learned this new song or something, or it could be something super deep that you learn about yourself. Does anybody want to start, or shall I just kind of go for it? I've actually not thought about it myself. I just came up with that question.
Well, I'm curious to put you on the spot to hear.
Yeah, that's
what
cool.
you have to come up with. What would you say?
All right. I actually feel like last year was a year of learning about myself quite a lot, actually. Let me try and summarize. All right. I might give you more than one thing here because I'm feeling kind, uncaffeinated and kind. So one thing that I learned last year, I feel like I learn this every year, but last year it really like slapped me in the face at least 5 times, is that I'm not actually a machine, and I need time off. And it's not that like taking time off from stuff makes me like lazy or something like that. It's like I actually gain so much more by taking time off. And I'm sure we spoke about this at some point on the podcast, but I often end up in an unfortunate situation where I'm working 7 days a week. And though it's not like 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, I'm working like 7 days a week. It might just be 2 lessons or something. And for me, I know that the pressure that puts on me mentally is quite a lot now, having spent a year pretty much doing it. Um, and yeah, it's so important for me to take time off and just sort of empty the cup, completely empty it, and then sort of start filling it up again. And I found that over Christmas, I was forced to isolate because Kaylee ended up getting COVID, and don't worry, she's okay. She was okay, but the kind of lovely thing that it afforded us was time just to spend together and just properly chill. We had all these social plans that would have been amazing, but yeah, I just properly relaxed for what felt like, yeah, it was about 10 days, and I couldn't leave the house. Um, yeah, and I feel so much better coming into this year having had a actual holiday. Not a holiday where I continue all my crazy activities and social things, but one where I really relax. And so looking forward to this year, I'm already trying to pencil in when the holidays are going to be, because I know that if I don't do that, stuff just ticks over. You take on another project and you end up doing all this stuff, and well, you end up with no holidays. And believe me, and if you're listening to this and you've gone 9 months without a holiday, it sucks. Don't do it to yourself. Take a long weekend if that's all you can do. Yeah.
I do think there's a measure of that as well, though. Like I completely get that, and it's something I've not quite figured out, and hopefully at some point this year I will figure it out. But I also do sort of feel that in the past 2 years, there's been a bit of a change in how we all sort of use screens and technology and that kind of thing as well. And it feels like your online work as well is kind of been put into hyperdrive as well. The fact that we're kind of all indoors as well is a big part of it, but just the fact that everything is so simple to do now that it makes you kind of avoid the excuse of, and it's a good excuse to have, which is to give yourself a break. But the problem is when you're like, well, I'll just get this one out of the way, or I'll just do a lesson here and there, and then you suddenly go, whoa, this was supposed to be my day off, or I was actually supposed to completely disconnect from work, or from what it is. And yeah, I think it's getting out the mindset that we all seem to be in, which is like 7 days a week now is just what you work, because you're inside all the time and because it's available, because it's there. It's like, yeah, that it seems like our life with technology has sort of merged to a point that it's gone into a hyperdrive, and I completely understand that as well. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I do think that there are pros to it. I think every now and then busting out like 7 days a week, maybe that's what I need because I'm just feeling it, and that's cool. But I don't think it's sustainable for me, It might be sustainable for, I don't know, one of you or someone who's listening, but I have come to learn that I'm not that guy, and I'm totally fine with it. And having a holiday makes me a better person by a million. So I'm hoping that this year I can plan ahead, actually take time off, and feel just generally more inspired and motivated to do my stuff throughout the year. All right, who's going to take the dance floor?
I think I'll go for it. Yeah, I definitely feel very much the same. Like over the past few years, like those thoughts have been there of, you should probably kind of take a break, but there's things to do, and it's just, it's take the opportunity, and just get those things done. But that's gotten to a point now where I'm doing so much stuff that in order to do that stuff well, I need to rest, I need to recharge. So I definitely done that over, kind of Christmas, New Year period, so that I can feel refreshed to just get back into the next term, and start strong, and just maintain that just like throughout the next term. That's the main thing that I think I've taken away and really applied it. It's like it's kind of been at the back of my mind, but now I'm really trying to just enforce that upon myself so that you can come back strong for your next term. But apart from that, I was trying to think of something else that was slightly different from that, just from yourself, Reese. But I think that's the that's the main takeaway. It's just the rest thing, which I'm sure many people will resonate with as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, it's funny that us reflecting on our last year, we can share that same sort of idea of like, oh, I should take more breaks. I wonder, like, if you're listening to it right now, do you feel the same? Is that something that you've struggled with? Let us know. I'm interested to find out if every single musician in the world struggles to take breaks. If so, particularly, maybe we should think about speaking to someone who specializes in sleep or like rest. That would be cool. Something to think about.
That's interesting. Do you know, I'm going to take it in a different way. I'm going to try and answer it in a different way. I think the big sort of learning point over the past year for me, and it does seem to be one that continually changes, but I think, again, the situation kind of warrants that it changes. And it's really just like the relationship that I have to the instrument is a big thing. So not necessarily what I'm doing on the instrument or how often, I pick it up, but really the importance of it in just kind of my day to day. I started to kind of notice as well last year, because of course everybody goes through the roller coasters of, being inspired, sitting down and working and feeling great and wanting to kind of play all the time, next to sometimes feeling just completely uninspired and wanting to, go off and do something else or throw it in the bin or snap it. But I think the big thing for me was like realizing how much I need it as an anchor, really. So just knowing whether it's just daily sitting down, just being able to kind of mess around with something for 10 minutes or whatever, have some kind of centering sort of time to find out where it is important, has been a really big deal for me as well. Because I think, it puts everything into perspective is the main thing. It centers you, of course, but it puts everything into perspective as to like, of course it's important, but what is its role when, you're doing other things, when you're doing admin, when you are writing, perhaps you're doing stuff that's like, and this, this is obviously something that's very important for people who are not professional musicians as well, which of course might be most of our audience, which is like, where does music factor in? Does it factor in as just a hobby, or does it factor in as something that's a lifestyle to you? But it's about then trying to kind of translate that into a lifestyle. It's a lot like, drinking water, like eating vegetables or going to the gym or that sort of thing. Like they all have a place in your lifestyle, and it can take a long time to mentally get them to click. Of course, people talk about like the 90 days that it takes for a habit to form as well. That's, although, music's not really like a habit, or at least to me, it's not really like a habit, but it's something that you have to factor into your life like it's a habit. And for me, at least, it's been about realizing that I need time to just sit with it, even if it's for 40 minutes to an hour a day, and just kind of feel comfortable with it, because it seems to put everything else that I am working on or busy with, in perspective and in order as well, I think. So that's been quite a big one. And it's something that I think that changes all the time. I think everything that we've brought up is something that changes. I think you have to constantly be questioning these things. You have to constantly be on top of, do you need a break? Should you have a break? How can you better inform yourself of, when to take holiday or whatever? And so I think maybe at the turning of the year, the point is really that you're always going to have these lessons that pop up, and sometimes it feels like you're learning the same lesson again and again and again. But it's because, naturally we're, as you said, Reese, we're not machines. Like we have to factor in time for ourselves. We have to factor in, a sense of what's important as well, and how to kind of center ourselves. And centering yourself is a balancing act rather than just a to-do list.
Nice. Very thoughtful as always, Mr. Handyside. Thank you very much. All right, another question. So I want you to think back to last year. And this question, I want you to try and answer or catch the thing that comes to you most immediately. Because I feel like if you look about too much into your mind, you might try and find something specific. But the question is, and I want someone else to start this one, so whoever comes up with it first, just jump on. I want you to think back to last year and describe or tell me a time that was fulfilling to you. Like something last year that was like, that was super fun, or I really enjoyed that. Who's going to jump on first? Don't think too hard. And if you're listening on the podcast, I do encourage you to go through this process as well with us. Like what is something last year that, I don't know, it was a great day. You look back and you're like, oh, that was one of the best days. It doesn't have to demonstrate a moment of growth or anything deep. It could be that you just had a great time with your friends. Anybody got one they want to share, or shall I jump on it again?
I don't mind. I'll kick it off. I was spinning a couple of ideas there, but I can think of two that I think are most important. One of them is without breach of confidentiality. Um, I think there's a couple sessions I've had with just students in person as well, sort of returning as well, because I think we forget, like, at least here in the UK, it's not until very recently that we've been able to sort of, in the past year literally, that we've been able to sort of have people in our homes again quite safely. So I think a really nice thing was having people in person, which is a large part of what I do, and being able to riff ideas and see people's realizations and learnings in 4D. So whether that's exploring whilst we both kind of play the song or whatever, or just kind of going through things, it's really nice to see that in 4D rather than kind of through the screen. So that kind of happening last year was a big, like, that's great. That's really, fulfilling, and kind of tells me that I'm doing my job right as well. But I think, the short answer is really the time that you and I kind of spent when I came up to Scotland was really good as well. Just playing a couple tunes. Callum, also you were there as well. Just kind of having a bit of a riff about music. Yeah, just kind of playing freely as well. It was really nice to do that as well, because it's sometimes it's very much needed. You sometimes don't realize you need it, and you need a bit of a sing song.
Nice, yeah. I resonate with that, Jack. There's if you know me closely, then you know that I'm just one for just deep conversation, like just getting deep into things, like just deep topics and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed that day as well. That was great. One of mine's is it is in a similar boat. First gig, played back in, a packed room. Was just like from working like at home, not really seeing many people, like seeing the odd friend, to then just being in like a really busy bar where there's no masks and people are up dancing. It's packed and you're having a good time playing the music. That was, I think, just because of the lack of that was probably just one of the better times. And it kind of got better just each time that we did that as well. Super, super fun, but also like a real shock because you just hadn't done it in so long. So I'd probably say that one is up there. That experience is up there. But also, like, same thing with students. Getting nice messages from students and really feeling like they've progressed, and that they're really building a skill set, and the ability to kind of develop their tools to the point where like they're really, really enjoying music, and they're they can start to dive deeper into things like theoretically. They can start to kind of open more doors for themselves once they get past a certain point, which has been really, really exciting just over the past year. So yeah, that's it for me. It's all music related. We'll probably spending some time with family as well. There's definitely been some time for that where it's just been really nice to not do anything and just chill with close family. That's probably it for me.
Nice. When I look back into the photo album that was 2021, and I see so many little things, and I'll give you a couple of the sort of bigger ones. But when I think back, Callum, I remember there was an evening where I think we went to the cinema, and then we went to that bar at the top of Leaf Walk, and we bought a bottle of wine and just had a nice chilled evening.
So we did, yeah.
Like I see a lot of small things like that last year that just felt, they were just really wholesome.
Did you share a piece of pasta as well, by any chance? Because I think I've seen that film.
Almost. Almost. But anyway, I think last year that, one of the main highlights was Jack came up to Scotland and we got everybody together and just had so much fun. And it kind of just reminded me of, when you're younger and you just get together with your friends and like just do stupid stuff, but it's fine because they're your friends and you're all equally stupid. We'd done that for a couple days and it was just so much fun, and it just reminded me that we've still got it. We've still got it. We can still have a good night out, and we can also still mess around and just be silly, and it's still so much fun. I want to do more of that next year, so I'm secretly hoping that Jack will move to Edinburgh at some point in his life, and we can just be like best friends. We like get up and, I don't know, brush each other's teeth, get coffee. Maybe actually, I tell you what I would love. I would love if we could record the podcast all in the same room. That would be so cool. I think it opens up for a different kind of conversation. Because right now we're sort of like, we've got virtual hand signals for whenever we're going to take the dance floor.
Of course, yeah, that would be fun. Yeah, especially like the brushing each other's teeth part as well. Like, I'm sure your toothbrush is better than mine, but I mean, on to other things as well. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. I think it'd be, I think it'd be a lot of fun. But yeah, I think it'd be a lot of fun to just kind of experience the podcast in a different way as well. Because I think another big part of what the three of us have been working on is all about, you know, how you, the listener, hear the episodes as well. That's a really big part of perhaps something that you don't really realize about what we do as well, and how we kind of try to put it across is like trying to present the podcast in a way that is, you know, a fair representation of our views and perhaps the concepts that we're talking about as well, but also the, you know, the just the general listening experience, because it's something that when we started trying to pen ways that the podcast could be different, we started to kind of list off, you know, podcasts that we listened to and we enjoyed, and we started to really talk about the general method or the ingredients that we would need to create something that resonated with us and was kind of a nice space to do as well. So it was fun for me personally this year to be part of a team that, because you guys are very on your toes with that stuff as well, and you have specialisms that make me dizzy. But you know, you have ways of being able to kind of bring ideas. I suppose we all do. We all have ways of bringing each other's kind of ideas out best as well, and it's culminated in, I think, quite a fun space. And for the future as well, that's going to be really fun to do as well. But what do you guys kind of hope for the future of the podcast as well? Because I know we're only, what is it, eight or 9 episodes in. I'm not too sure. But yeah, what do you guys hope for the future of, you know, 2022 with the podcast?
Callum, were you going to say something there? Sorry, I just don't want to jump in if you were.
No, I was just going to ask a question, but I can remember it, and we can dive into this question for just now.
Write it down.
Yeah,
What do you see? Yeah, Jack, just off the back of what you said there, one big highlight of last year was getting this team together. And it was quite carefully created, actually. You know, Jack, we'd worked together in season 1 a little bit and realised that was, well, it became more of a friendship than like a working partnership. And it just seemed natural to get you on board, and you're fantastic at what you do. But I remember speaking to Jack for a while. It's like, oh, you know, there's this guy Callum. I think he could be quite cool for something. We didn't really know at the time. We're talking about Callum doing things that were different from what he's doing now. And I remember sitting down and speaking to Callum about the project, because at this point I hadn't really told you really what we were kind of working on. And yeah, I think it's so cool that we can get together and do this, and everybody is so up for it as well, because, you know, none of us are getting paid to do this, and it is a lot of work. You know, we have deadlines every week, and, you know, the shooting of these episodes, I mean, they can take, well, however long you're listening for, plus 10 minutes of faff at the beginning, you know? It's like, it's a good amount of work that we all put in, and to look back on last year and see that we have managed to create a workflow and a team that gets this done successfully and up to a really high standard every week is fantastic. So yeah, good job to everybody. I think that's awesome. But going forward into, let's just say, the next year, I would love to start the actual season 2 of the podcast again. And now, if you're listening and you're confused by what that means, the way that we kind of see it right now is that season 1, we interviewed, I think, 20 guests from around the world speaking about all sorts. Mainly about like how they got to where they are in their career, and I don't know, it was all quite inspirational. Really enjoyed that. The thing you're listening to right now, sitting in jams, is really just some sort of a buffer in between us doing the second season where we do get guests on the show again. And now we're all really enjoying this, and I don't think we just see it as a buffer at this point. It's almost just like another side of the podcast. And so what I am hoping that we can get going soonish is, you know, maybe one week we do the interview episode, the other week is a jams episode, and we just kind of continue that for the year and get, yeah, I don't know how many guests we'll be able to squeeze in, but I'm hoping that this season's guests are from a much wider spectrum. So we've been talking about things like music therapists or music psychologists to composers for TV and film. You name it. If there's something you want to hear on the podcast as well, let us know. Just send us a message because we'd love to hear what you'd like to get out of the podcast as well. But yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to this year with the podcast. What are you looking forward to?
For me, I would say just trying to build like bigger community, and what you were saying there, Reese, about like speaking to other specialists. I think it would be, I always find that stuff like super interesting. Like things, I love the Joe Rogan podcast for that reason. Just having all the different specialists on, people who are really educated about what they're talking about. So I would just love that. I think if you got different specialists on to really kind of dig deep into what they do, I think that would be super interesting for season 2.
I would also like to encourage people more to try and feel like they're part of the podcast, because we've taken questions each week. Well, I don't know, let's just say 5 out of 8 weeks, where we have actually gone through topics and questions that you've asked. And that's always fun. Now, Jack's actually just disappeared from the Zoom call, so I'm going to admit him back in right now. But, are you there?
I'm there.
You're there.
Apologies for that.
That's yes. All right. You've kind of made it just in time for your part of the answer. Cool.
What's the question?
You asked it, bro. The question is, I guess, sort of, what are you looking forward to in the podcast? What's something that you're keen to do more of?
To be honest, I'm really just keen to see what happens in the long term with just keeping up the consistency of these things as well. Because I think something that's probably quite obvious to all three of us, and hopefully as well to the listener as well, is like our styles are still developing, I think. And that's a really important part of just shooting any kind of content, really, is that you develop a style. And I think the beauty of it is that we are not kind of trying to impose one idea of what we think sitting in should be as well. And I, like you, Reese, I'm quite excited by the idea of having guests on as well, being able to kind of take it in a different tack. But I'm also enjoying this really informal setting of being able to kind of sit with an idea and spin it around and that sort of thing. I think it's important to have both spaces where you can be both fairly informal and, I won't say formal in the context, but a little more kind of polished, I suppose. So it's fun to be able to work on both of those skills side to side. But I think I'm looking forward. I'm looking in general. I'm looking forward to having both platforms or both kind of mediums, and then trying to kind of find what Sitting In's voice really is, which I'm sure will be a lot of fun.
I think Sitting In's voice secretly is like a cross between Gollum and I don't know, like Batman or something. Can you imagine Gollum fused with Batman? I think that's what Sitting In would sound like if it was a person.
Kind of husky, but also like kind of whiny as well. I'll take the whiny part, but
all right, cool. Well, it's earlier in the morning, so I'm maybe sounding a little bit huskier. All right. On the back of that, I have one question, then maybe we can do Callum's to wrap up. All right, favorite episode of the podcast last year. Now I'm going to quickly look through the topics just so that I can remind myself.
In fact, already.
All right, cool. Jack, you want to jump in then?
Yeah, sure. I really enjoyed the Making Practice Personal episode. I think it was a really fun time to explore that idea as well, because I think we all each had different ideas about what practice sort of meant to begin with, then kind of talking about our own ideas as well. Like, it's really inspired me personally, kind of coming off the back of it, to write about it and to think about it in a different way as well. And I suppose, again, that's the fun with these things, is like there are infinite amounts of topics, some that audience members kind of post out that would never have even appeared as a glimmer in my mind, but just kind of discussing different things as well like that. I think that was a really great topic, because it seemed to open the floodgates to a whole bunch of new concepts and ideas that I really had not spent a whole lot of time looking at. But that would be mine.
I think that I'm looking through the list right now, and I honestly feel like nearly every episode, I'm like, that was actually really great to record for me. But one that when I look through, I do remember, is episode number 4, and it was musicians and train wreck situations. And the reason I enjoyed that is because I feel like it was the first one out of this batch that we didn't really have like a heavy topic that we were like, oh, let's discuss the impact of learning music theory on, I don't know. It wasn't too clinical. It was just relaxed, like story time, kind of like this episode. And it was just so easy to record. I remember we just laughed, and it was great. I do want to point out another one, and it's episode 6, and it was the trials of being a professional musician. And I kind of enjoyed that one for a similar reason, in that we knew we were going to record 2 episodes that day, but we're all, for some reason, super stressed about recording the episode. And we end up just picking a question from someone on Instagram, and we hadn't planned anything. I think that's maybe why we were feeling stressed. But we just thought, it's like, all right, let's just do this one. Like, if it's rubbish, we'll delete it. That's fine, because we know we're going to record this other one. But we needed to do something to get us in the zone, which, funnily enough, the next question was how to get into the zone when performing, and then we answered that. But I enjoyed the process of doing that one, because it really loosened us up.
Yeah, and there seems to be a bit of a lineage as well with some of these topics as well. Like, I know that whenever somebody sends in a question or something for us to speak about, I know we kind of discuss it a bit in our group chat as well, and or perhaps even it's, because we shoot like every fortnightly as well, so we shoot a few episodes in a day, which is fun as well. But it means that each of the episodes between, or like every kind of 2 episodes, we end up having quite a long time to digest ideas, think about them. And it's very common that I think that each of the episodes that kind of proceeds. English is a hard language this morning for some reason. Always is in
It's the
January.
coffee, bro. Remember, if
It's
you
the
want to
lack
support
of.
us, buy us a coffee. It's going to make the podcast better.
100% that. But yeah, I think it's the fact that sometimes each episode sort of answers questions that we had put out in the last one, or the topics kind of, they join together in quite a chronological way almost as well. And so it can be fun to work things through that way as well.
Nice. Yeah, Reese, my favourite one is definitely number 4 too. I don't know what it is, but I just I really enjoyed kind of telling those stories, and I had so many. I think that was what was great. I had so many train wreck situations that it was just it was quite funny to tell those, and quite a few people got in touch, and I've said things about that one just specifically to that train wreck that you edited the video into the podcast.
Oh, that was awesome. Is that the one where you were playing the Ibanez? And
Yeah, it was amazing.
That was awesome.
It was so good. But again, loved the process throughout, and just as you were saying earlier, Jack, I find it really exciting to see where this dynamic, like this trio, like what it's going to be like in a year, like what kind of things are we going to be producing in the jams-esque area as well. I think it's going to be super interesting.
Sweet. There was something you said in that. What was it? It was a trio. And I was sort of looking at this little Zoom grid in front of me, and I was like, I wonder what it'd be like with an extra person. We've never considered it as a team, but I was just wondering, it's like, what if we had another person on the show? Well, I guess we would. That would be the guest who we're interviewing, so maybe that would be quite exciting. But anyway, Callum, you had a question that you were going to ask earlier. Do you want to ask that? I mean, we can wrap it up.
Yeah, sure. So, my question was, is there, this doesn't need to be anything musical, but from last year, is there anything that you didn't do that you've said to yourself that you maybe want to do this year? And obviously, as a musician, it's very easy. Like, usually that's quite a big one for musicians, because it's like, oh, I didn't release music this year or something like that. So that's my one. It's just that I've said for like 3-4 years running that I want to release music, like loads of stuff. That's my doorbell, by the way. I'll get that in a second. But yeah, so that would be my question. I'll maybe leave that with you, and
That's
I'm going
good.
to go and
I'll take
see
over.
what the door's like.
Yeah. Hopefully the door opens. I have just lost the question.
So what is something that you essentially want to resolve?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's the same as Callum. I feel like for as long as I can remember, I've been working on this bloody EP. And the reason it's taken so long, I will say a lot is because of COVID and stuff getting shut down for so long, and then having to kind of reignite that spark about 4 times is it gets quite tiring, and I don't know, maybe people start to lose hope. But I would say that definitely, releasing music as well. I'm sitting on like 12 tracks right now that I've been working on with a band, but stuff just keeps delaying the process. Now we are at the point where we've recorded demos for like 3 tracks, and then we're going to record the actual version hopefully soonish. And so I feel like we are making way. It's just long. And it's also teaching me, in the same way this podcast is teaching me, like how to sort of manage a team a little bit better. Because, a band, when it gets to this sort of stage where you're the band leader and you're trying to make it happen with the help of other people, there's just other things and other roles you have to assume that I didn't have to do when I was much younger. Because everybody just showed up, and I don't know, it was a lot easier when I was like 14 to make a band. I probably could have recorded like 6 albums when I was 14, but I just didn't. But again, although I feel somewhat disappointed, I'm also like, man, this stuff takes a long time, and I'm glad I didn't release it 2 years ago. But there's going to come a time when it's like, no, you need to capture that moment, like that moment of, say, the last 3 years. Like, it needs to be summarized, and hopefully this year is the year it gets summarized, and you'll be able to listen to it. Were you going to say something, Callum?
Yeah, another train wreck actually. Yeah, just someone trying to deliver parcels to here that is for the restaurant underneath, and forgot that I've got maintenance getting done today, so we've got someone in now.
Do you need to shoot off?
So,
or?
I don't need to shoot off. Just things might get a bit noisy.
We'll see how we go.
See how we get on. But that's
I want to know what kind of restaurant you live above.
It's called Bundits. It does like Japanese style rolls and stuff like that. It's a bar as well.
Cool.
Japanese style buns with I've not actually been to many times, even though I live above it. But yeah, I think that's like its selling point, and it seems to do like super well.
It's pretty good.
It's got all these like it stands out so much, like in that whole kind of walk that you've got, the Leith walk, with the big green and like kind of pink neon signs and stuff. Really green. It stands out like a sore thumb, but in a good way.
Okay, so let me try and answer this. Funny enough, it's not for me to release music. I think the big thing for me is to try to take the pressure off myself a bit much. So to have less expectation, I think, which I think is going to sound really strange to people who think that you sort of have to go through your journey as a musician or your life as a musician constantly having a high expectation to attain X, Y, and Z. But I think for me, on a personal note, it's trying to have less expectation, and not from a place of like stopping disappointment, because I think you're always going to have disappointment as a musician, whether it's like, or as a person, I suppose, in general. But yeah, just I think trying to be more measured in my approach as well, and try to be a bit more present with what it is that I enjoy about music as well, because I think as as experienced as we all are, I think again it's one of those things that seems to pop up as a question, because you constantly need to keep on track of the fact that the answer changes all the time, the data changes, you are the data reserve, and what you kind of give out and your relationship to the instrument changes as well. And I think for me it's about trying to capture that and document it as well, which is a really big thing. So either being able to write about it or just posting from a place of honesty, really, about what it is I'm doing. I think there's definitely something in there for sure. But yeah, having less expectation really over myself and what I think I should be doing, and just trying to sit and enjoy what it is that I am actually doing. I think that's a huge part of personally being present as well. I think that's a really big part of it. But yeah, as a musician as well, just being present, just being able to sit with it, with where you are, with the things that you can do and the things that you can't do, and knowing that the world doesn't really end if you can do something and you can't do another thing. It's like that's a big that's a big sort of point to get to, where everything just sort of levels out and you go, okay, cool, there's a time and a place, but just being happy where you are.
Great. And on that note, I think this is the right time and place to wrap it. So thank you all for listening, and thank you both for the enjoyable conversation. Now, I just want to remind you all that if you want to support this podcast in any way, you can, let me give you some examples. You can share the podcast with a friend. All right. If you enjoyed that, get on the phone, send it to a friend, tell them you love them. You can, I don't know. What else can you do? You can buy us a coffee. I just set that up. So if you want to send us, I'm sure you can send us as little as like £1 or £2 or something like that, which is, I don't know, $1 or $2. It's like not a lot of money. But if you do want to support us, it does go a long way. I know that merch can be expensive and you don't want to buy a mug. But again, if you do want to feel as cool as us all rocking this nice jumper or the mug that Callum's been sipping out of, you're drinking whiskey, right?
Of course. It's breakfast.
In Scotland, we drink whiskey for breakfast. Hence why we're uncaffeinated. No, of course, I'm kidding. But yeah, if you do want to get some merch, you can get that via the link below. You know, wherever you listen to this, there will be a link below, and it will have the Teespring where you can get the merch, or the Buy Me a Coffee. And if you want to share it with a friend, well, hopefully you know how to share something. Cool. Well, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for the conversation, and I'll speak to you all next week.